Let's bring in GOP Senator David Perdue. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. So a big day for you, very important. Stacey Abrams was on another network over the weekend, and she was talking about the number of people that are voting. She believes it's a sign because there are 85,000 applications from voters who did not vote in the general election. It's a big number. Listen to what she said.
Democrats are prepared to win this election. 1.2 million absentee ballots have been requested thus far. And just to put that into context, 1.3 million were requested for all of the general election. And of that 1.2 million, 85,000 of those applications are from voters who did not vote in the general election, and they are disproportionately between the ages of 18 and 29 and disproportionately people of color. What that signals is that there's an enthusiasm for Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, and it signals that we understand that we need to make a plan to vote and deliver this election.
Senator, what's your reaction?
Well, they're behind where they were in the general election, Ainsley, and we beat them then by 2 points. 52.5% of Georgians rejected Jon Ossoff in my race and this liberal leftist agenda. So I'm confident that if we get our vote out, we will win again. Look, today's the first day of early voting, and we're encouraging everybody on our side to get out early. Don't wait till January the 5th. We're trying to get all of our voters to get out before Christmas.
Senator, right now we understand, according to Trafalgar, that has you trailing. You had an 88,000 vote win, but you didn't get 50%. Do you believe that Ossoff has gotten to the point where he's now beating you by a point?
You know, Brian, I'm an outsider to this political process. Back in 2014, these same pundits had me down 8 to 10 points. We won by 8 then. They had us down by 5 in this last general election. We won by 2. We just came up a few thousand votes short of this 50% rule we have here in Georgia. So I don't pay a lot of attention. The best poll we have had is the election. And again, I go back to that. They couldn't get to 48% on the Democratic side. We get our vote out in Georgia, we'll be just fine. But we have to remind everybody that we're doing everything we can to plug the holes that we saw emerge in the November election. And let me remind the voters, I mean, most Republicans are voting in person. There's a reason why the Democrats are trying to go for more absentee ballots. If you vote in person, you have to have a photo ID. In absentee ballots, you don't. So we know some of the things that were done in November, and we're trying to make sure they don't happen in January.
Right. You know, we have heard from the president over the last couple of weeks, and he says, obviously, he thinks that even though the numbers right now say that Joe Biden won Georgia, the president says he actually won Georgia, given some disparities and information that he's talked a lot about. He says the election was rigged then. So, you know, I've talked to some people down in Georgia, and they've said, well, the president says the November election was rigged. Why should I vote in this new election if it's rigged too?
Well, it's a great question, and that's why we're doing everything we can with the state election board, the Secretary of State's office, the Attorney General's office, and the courts to make sure that.
Might have
Sometimes
frozen.
it cranks back up.
Yeah.
I think that's probably right. I was reading in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that Patrick Bell, who is the Forsyth County Republican chairman, he worries about potential harvesting of absentee ballots, and people who moved out of the state are maintaining their Georgia registrations. He's also concerned that people move to Georgia to vote specifically. We understand the senator is back with us. Senator, are you worried, as Patrick Bell is in Forsyth County, that people have moved to Georgia just to vote?
Of course we are. I mean, this is what Yang and Friedman said. Some of these leading Democrats, come on down to Georgia and take advantage of this law. But we are trying in the court to make sure that we segregate all of the people who registered after the November election and have gotten an absentee ballot. We want those treated as a provisional ballot to make sure. But again, I come back to say this to the viewers, that in Georgia, if you're really concerned about the outcome, we're the last line of defense against this radical leftist agenda. We don't have to listen to us. You just have to read what the Democrats have put in their national platform. And I believe Georgians are going to stand up to that. We're not going to let the road to socialism run through the state of Georgia. And if we win Georgia, we absolutely save America.
Do you trust what's going to happen in January? I know that the Fox News poll shows that a lot of Republicans, they do think that the election was stolen. 77% of his supporters told Fox News they believe he was robbed. 68% of Republicans felt the same way, and even 10% of the Democrats. What are you doing in the state of Georgia to ensure the people who are going out to vote for you that their voices will be heard and nothing nefarious will happen?
Well, we're asking to change several things. One is how the signatures are verified. There were a lot of changes going into the November 2020 election from past practices in Georgia when we didn't have this sort of problem. And so we want to go back to the way we used to do it on signature verification. That's very important. The second are these, as you mentioned, these votes coming in from out of state. And then third, we want to make sure that the ballots themselves, before they are separated from the envelopes, that we get a good hard verification.
Well, you have less than a month to make these changes, and Christmas is around the corner. People are going to be spending time with their family. How are you going to change all this before the runoff?
Well, we're working in the courts right now. We're negotiating with the election board. But the main thing we're doing right now, early voting starts today. Look, all these intransiencies occurred in November, and we still won. We shut them down then. We can do it again. We have to get our vote out. We will not have the degree of intransiencies that we had in November and January. I'm fully confident of that.
Yeah, you got more votes than the president did, so you won by 88,000. Just wasn't enough because of Georgia rules. Meanwhile, if there was one buzz term I heard that really resonates with Georgians because they're outraged by it, it is defund the police. Clearly, in the Zoom call, that number and those stats and those bar graphs got back to Joe Biden. Listen to this.
I don't think we should make that a big issue going into before January 5th, when the election takes place down in Georgia. But I also don't think we should get too far ahead of ourselves on dealing with police reform in that, because they've already labeled us as being defund the police. Give me advice whether we should do that before January 5th, because that's how they beat the living hell out of us across the country, saying that we're talking about defunding the police. How much do we push between now and January 5th? We need those 2 seats about police reform.
So, Senator, he's saying keep your powder dry till after January 5th. We don't want the truth to get out. That's how I read it. What about you?
That's exactly what they're doing. This is the James Carville theory from the 90s. Lie, lie, lie right up until the election, and then do what you want. Look, this shows the hypocrisy of the Democrats and their platform. They want to defund the police. They want illegal immigrants to vote. They want higher taxes, and they want to stack the court. But obviously, they don't want to talk about any of that. So mainly what they're spending their money on down here is attacking Kelly Loeffler and me. And what we're doing basically right now is reminding the people of Georgia what's at stake here. We won't get a second bite at this apple. This is the very last line of defense against this agenda, because once Schumer changes that filibuster rule, we won't get that back.
Yeah, you're running against a documentarian who's for the Green Deal, whose main client is China.
I'm running against a guy that worked directly for the Chinese Communist Party in China, and tried to hide it from voters in Georgia. He did hide it from voters in Georgia. He got caught and lied about it. He's got a bigger connection to communist China than Hunter Biden or Swalwell. I mean, this is a controversy that we really need to get at. But look, he will just be a rubber stamp, just like Raphael Warnock. These are the 2 most liberal candidates the Democrats have put up for the United States Senate in my lifetime. And they're just going to be a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer in this agenda that they want to perpetrate.
Senator, we wish you all the best. Thanks so much for coming on our show. Merry Christmas.
God bless you guys.
God bless you, too.